Dear Dhamma friends, we are here with the final Q&A and we have some experiences.
Avasara Bhante, we have received 5 reports today. Report number 1, sitting meditation. Primary object, breath at the tip of my nose. Observations. In the early morning session, my mind was very restless. I was disturbed and annoyed by everything. Traffic, sound of fans, even the birds. My nose was congested with phlegm and I was not comfortable. I tried to focus on the discomfort, but the mind was very restless. I couldn't observe more than 2 breaths at a time. Second session, the mind was calm. I observed the breath at the tip of the nose and also inside the nose. Sometimes I seem to wait, pause at the end of inhaling and exhaling. This made the breath take longer. I felt happy to watch the breath. Duration 8 to 10 breaths and return immediately after distraction on the second session. Walking meditation. Primary object, movement of the feet. Observations. I realized that my walking meditation is not very good or very bad, unlike sitting meditation. I observed my feet with each step. Seeing the beginning and near the end, I would switch to the other foot as it began moving. Duration 15 to 25 steps. There were a few breaks which also lasted as long. Daily activities not enough to talk about.
Yes, now that's the nature, that's how it works. Sometimes the mind is peaceful, sometimes it is restless. So that happens, and there is no point in finding reasons for this. Maybe due to many causes, such conditions arise. So when they arise, you simply have to go through such states, simply has to sit through your meditation session. That's what you can do. Simply try to continue the awareness and sit through the difficulty. That's all you can do. If it is walking, it might be easier. But when such things happen in a sitting session, it is quite difficult to continue for the decided time. And the mind goes crazy over certain things. Even the rain bothers us, even the sitting posture irritates us. So that way, the restlessness is there. But what can you do? There might be many causes behind these such states. Maybe past karma, maybe our food, maybe the season, maybe certain family matters. So everything comes together and such conditions arise. But that's okay. We don't expect this mind to be peaceful all the time. Instead, whatever the current reality, you have to accept it. And when you accept, that's the way towards betterment. You can make it better in the future if you accept the present moment with mindfulness. The present moment, it has past causes. And if you get angry, if you get irritated, if you react to these states, then what happens is that you are creating even causes for the future. But when we accept the status in a mindful manner, when we try to somehow continue with the mindfulness, that helps, and that helps to create a better future. That's the very idea. So this state, it has past causes, but being mindful in the present, you are creating better causes for the future. So try and continue. Do a daily walking, sitting. You have to practice many hours till your mind is accepting both the conditions equally. Whether it is peaceful or whether it is restless, mind has the same acceptance towards both the experiences. Till that point, you have to meditate. So it's going to be a long journey, but that's okay. When we continue our practice, we realize we become more and more accepting towards different states of mind.
Report number 2. Theruwan Saranai Swamin Wahansa. I have been practicing samatha meditation for the past several years. I understand to attain the state of Sotapanna, it is necessary to realize Sakkaya Ditthi, Vicikiccha and Silabbata Paramasa. Obviously, when understand Sakkaya Ditthi, we can avoid Vicikiccha and Silabbata Paramasa. Is Sakkaya Ditthi can only be realized through Vipassana meditation? And in such a scenario, how can we move from samatha to Vipassana practice? Does it happen automatically through the samatha practice? Please advise with metta.
Yes, so Buddha's way of practice, it combines both samatha and Vipassana approaches. The yogis before Buddha, they did the samatha practices. They did them to extremes, but still they were not able to find the lasting peace. They were peaceful for a certain period, probably for few eons even, but then again they came back to the same cycle of birth and death. So samatha practices, concentration was there even before. Buddha also advises us to practice concentration, but the new addition or the unique teaching goes towards Vipassana. So when we think about our way of practice, most people think probably it is samatha, probably it is Vipassana. That type of a thinking is there. But according to my understanding, I say we are practicing samatha Vipassana meditation. This practice, it works with both those aspects. What's important is not to separate them. Don't tell that you are only doing samatha. Don't tell that you are only doing Vipassana. That's not the case. Instead, this supports these two faculties. They are supporting each other and allowing our practice to grow. In the commentary, there is this idea of Yuganadda. That means two oxen pulling the same cart. And both the faculties are supporting each other and continuing the path or the journey. That's the very idea. So sit in meditation, simply bring your attention to the breathing, and when it evolves for a few minutes, you can realize whether this is going towards samatha or Vipassana. One day it'll be more aligned towards samatha. On another session, it will be more aligned towards Vipassana. Now, for example, that earlier report, that person was clearly mentioning two different sitting sessions. One is more aligned towards Vipassana, one is more aligned towards samatha. So that Vipassana session, we try to deny it. We say that this is not going to work. But when you sit through that type of session, that makes a huge impact to your practice. The wisdom part that arises. Sati Sampajanya. Sampajanya part only comes when things go wrong. That's the issue, right? We think that we are with the breath, we are peaceful, our practice is working. But in order for your Sampajanya to develop, the wisdom part to arise, things has to go wrong. Like mind is all over the place, you can't keep your attention with the breathing, the rain is coming, all the irritation in your posture. Among all these things, if you continue, if you know how to do the practice, then you realize that wisdom faculty arises out of such situations. Even in your daily life, when things go wrong, then only you get to experiment with this part. Then you are in unknown territory. You are out of your comfort zone. When such things happen only, it gives birth to the wisdom part. Right? So when troubles come, when difficulties come, when certain illness appear, we don't try to deny that. Instead, we take that as a part of our practice, and when we continue, we realize that very period helped a lot. Yes, so what we are doing, walking, sitting, daily activities mindfully, that approach, it supports both samatha and vipassana approach, and gradually, sometimes it is more aligned towards samatha, sometimes it is more aligned towards vipassana. You have to accept both parts and simply continue the practice. That's what important. If you want to grow this, then continuing sitting, walking practice, that's the way.
Report number 3, Theruvan Saranai Swamin Wahansa. When our mind is much settled, I noticed that a perspective stroke viewpoint that we have regarding something sometimes tend to change to a more wholesome perspective. However, this perspective change happens as a new thought However, this perspective change happens as a new thought that automatically arises in the mind rather than a non-thought based impression stroke perspective. Is the former samma sankappa and the latter samma ditti? You want me to read it again?
Yeah.
Sorry. When our mind is much settled, I notice that a perspective stroke viewpoint that we have regarding something sometimes tend to change to a more wholesome perspective. However, this perspective change happens as a new thought that automatically arises in the mind rather than a non-thought based impression perspective. Is the former samma sankappa and the latter samma ditti.
Right. So when you continue the practice, gradually you get to see a bigger picture. That's the very idea. Now most people, they directly try to strive towards samma sati, samma ditti, samma samadhi, that type of thing. But you have to understand, you don't even have bare attention initially. Right? So how to strive towards samma sati directly? Now still start with bare attention. Try to catch few breaths. Try to catch few steps. So this is like refining. It's a process of refining. Little by little we are refining. We can say not continuous, continual improvement. Right? You refine a level, you refine into a certain level, you stay there for a while, then again you are refined further. Continual improvement. So you can see even the mindfulness, sati, it develops in such a manner. You start with little mindfulness, then gradually it develops, it matures. So we have to understand this is more like a journey that we are going through. And tomorrow, you'll probably be able to see even a bigger picture. When that happens, you will say that today's one is not that good. Right? So if you try to label today's one as, let's say, samma ditti, then tomorrow you will run out of a name. So don't try to put labels, names. Instead, understand it's not a destination. Instead, it is a journey. Gradual improvements, little by little, and continuing. And when you do that, you realize these faculties, they get refined more and more. And as a result, we get to see much clearly. We get to see a bigger picture. That's the very idea. So probably what you understand as a wholesome way of perceiving something, tomorrow it will be even better. And when that happens, you realize my earlier version was not so good. Yes, so if you have that attitude, then there's always opening for becoming better, opening for more refining. That's important, right? So continue this. When you continue, you get to see many more aspects, see many more views, see many more approaches. Gradually, you are improving. Now, yesterday at night, there was this master trainer program. That's like teacher training the mindful facilitators. So they have been continuing for like couple of weeks now. I think they had about 4 sessions. And one person was sharing her experience, and she was saying that the traditional sequence that we set, now you are quite familiar about it. We sit down, we bring our attention to the breathing. Then when you continue with the breathing, gradually the breathing fades away. Then you are dragged into some kind of a flow, some kind of a flux kind of a state. You can either say flux, or sometimes you can say flow state even. Probably in a traditional approach, in a traditional way of sequence, it might take 40 or so minutes to get there in a sitting session, to get into that flux. Yes? So you know that approach. But that lady was telling that she had some family matter, so her mind was all over the place. She couldn't notice the breathing. So instead of taking that traditional step-by-step sequence, she allowed her mind to go free. She allowed her mind to storytell, think thoughts. When she allowed that, the whole incident was playing back and forth in her mind, analyzing, thinking, all those things. But within like 15 or 20 minutes, everything settled down and she reached the same flux level. Right? So same destination, 2 different paths. Yes? So traditional one, we set the sequence and this is how you can go there. But this new path, she's asking, Bhante, you didn't tell about this one. Now, this is what I feel, this is what I experienced. I reached the same flux level or same flow state through different approaches, two different approaches. And the second one is faster, needs less effort. But that's more like a risk lover's path. It's risky, right? So asking why this wasn't explained in the program. So I told her that path we can't explain. There are probably like 100 people over there. So we have to give them the traditional approach, sequence. Go to the breath, notice how it is changing, and gradually breath fades away and you are dropped into this flux. Yes. So that approach only we can teach. And when they experiment, when they practice, then they find their unique ways of approaching that. Simply being for a while with the mind, more like, I can't remember that word. Choiceless awareness, yes. Simply like being like choiceless awareness. And if you be there for a while, then you realize you reach the same destination. So that second path, you can't teach it. You go tell a beginner to simply be choiceless awareness, then they will go crazy over it. It's not going to work. But for a practitioner, when they repetitively practice, they realize that they can reach the same state to in different approaches. That second one is more like risky, but that's faster, requires less effort. Yes, so when we practice only, we can figure out those things. And we have to wait till they come up with that experience. You don't tell earlier, you wait for them to practice and you wait for them to come with that feedback. Then only you can explain, this is how. This is how. So it was a very nice experience. Somebody, a new practitioner, coming and telling this story. It's like, honey in my ears. Very happy to hear. And then the people are figuring out. And when they mention only, we get to share our part about that experience. You don't even think about such things in a beginner's session like that. But somebody came up with that experience and shared and asked the question. Then we can discuss in length, okay, this is how. Right? So all those things we figure out by repetitive practice only. You take the sequence, that's the traditional approach, but gradually you can experiment with them and you get to see there are new ways of practicing, new ways of reaching that same destination with repetitive practice with a shorter time. And when you do many years, many hours of practice, then you realize you simply sit, close your eyes, and you are simply in the flux state. You don't have to do anything about it. Yes, so that comes with many years, many hours of practice, but all of us, we can get there. That's the very idea, that's the very promise. So you experiment with this. You experiment with your walking, you experiment with your sitting. Gradually, you understand how to approach the practice the best way.
Report number 4. With kindness towards us, please explain further the Vedana, Sankhara, Vijnana, consciousness with practical examples, please, with much merit to you, Bhante.
That's all.
Sorry, Bhante. Please explain further the impermanence of Vedana, Sankhara, Vijnana, consciousness with practical experience.
Yes, now you have to understand, even the day before yesterday, I mentioned, now all these 5 aggregates, they work together. You can't separate a few of them and say how they are operating. That's not the case. Instead, all of them, it's like a mixture and all of them are working at once. That's how it is. So you have form. It's like a dead body, you can't feel it if you don't have the mind aspects, the other faculties, other things, other aggregates. So form is there, based on that form, you get the feeling. Feeling, perception, volitional formations, all those 3 things goes together, we can say. Right? Then there is this final observer, the person who notices, the person who feels, the person who perceives, the person who thinks, that type of a thing. Yes, so that experiment, that's what we are experiencing time after time. In our walking, sitting, we are experiencing this. And during our talks, maybe you can listen to them once again. We talked about many examples, many such examples. How are we feeling these things? How are they arising? How are they disappearing? All those things we talked about. Right? So, gradually work with the practice and gradually you get to understand these things. You can't simply chase after, let's say, feeling or after perception, after volitional formation or after consciousness. That way you can't chase after one and catch it. That's not the way. Instead, by simply observing the breath, we are understanding the nature of these things. We are observing the nature of these things. So simply by observing an object, we get to understand these things. Now even somebody was asking in some other session, that person was saying that I was trying to catch the observer. The I behind the observation. I was trying to catch him. And I tried in a sitting session. I wasn't interested in the observations, the things that comes to my mind. I wasn't interested. Instead, I was turning my attention towards the observer and trying to catch him. That was my practice. Then after a while, I ended up with a headache. Yes, so that's a good way to end up with a headache. You try to catch the I behind all this. You try to catch the observer instead of the observation. So it's not easy. It's not easy. And probably you'll end up with a headache. But it's good to experiment with these things. That I agree. You have to try whether I can catch the observer. And when you try it, you realize it is so overwhelming. And sometimes you even get a headache. So how to catch the observer behind all the observations? The way is simply to keep on watching the breath. When we are watching the breath, we are watching the observer as well. That's the very point that was made yesterday. If the observation is changing, the observer is also changing. Anatma. Anatma nature comes because everything we observe, they are changing. If the observation is changing, definitely the observer must change. That's the very idea. So by watching the observation, we get to experience the observer as well. So it's like indirectly you are trying to catch the observer behind this. You try to catch through the observation. That's the very idea. So all these things, if you try to separate them, if you try to say, I'll approach this one, I'll try to catch that one, that's not how it's going to work. Now imagine that person was saying that I was interested in the I behind everything. I was trying to catch the observer behind the observation. Think about that very sentence. I was trying to catch the I. Now the sentence starts with an I. Yes? So the very observer is trying to catch the very observer. He is saying, okay, we'll go together and we'll catch the observer. But you are going with the same culprit. Yes? So that type of a mind disease. So if you keep on thinking, if you keep on trying to catch it, then it's a good way to go crazy over it, because you are going with the very same culprit, and you are making this agreement with him, telling that we'll go together and we'll catch him. But the culprit is right beside you, making all the plots, making all the plans. So that's the thing. So try to continue the simple practice, and by going through that simple practice, you get to understand all the things that are necessary. They might not appear with labels. They might not appear with labels. But when you go through the practice without labels, you are getting to understand them. Now, there was this very nice story in one of the books, and that person, educated, knowledgeable about the practice, goes to a deep forest and meet a meditating monk there. He was probably like in the forest for many years. And that other person, he was well educated, knowledgeable about the practice. And this person goes and asks some questions from that meditating monk. Although he wasn't replying with formal words that are used for those questions, he was explaining the same concepts. Deep Zen teachings, deep Buddhist teachings, he was explaining in simple terms, but he wasn't using all the formal, proper words for them. So you can see that person, by simply practicing, has gone through all the experiences, but he probably doesn't know the correct words for them. All the teachings, the knowledge is not there. But when you deal with such a person, when you talk to them, you realize both of these things, they align very nicely. So in your practice, maybe you have already experienced them for many times, but they don't come with the labels, no. They don't come with the signpost saying, I am the volitional formations. That's not there. So you don't see the labels, you don't see the signpost, you simply experience them. And later you come and ask, I haven't experienced volitional formations, how can I do? Yes, that's not the way. Instead, continue the practice, and when you continue, you go through such experiences. And one day it will hit you, okay, I was going through this experience for many times, now only I understand that this is, it was. Yes, so that way is much more efficient, and that approach is what I am encouraging.
Report number 5. Sitting meditation. Observing the breath. Suddenly the thoughts of guilt came. I have been practicing and changing my inner self. Have travelled a long way in my journey of metta. But still relationship with my family remain unchanged. No contact mode with my mother. Distance has brought so much peace. But mother has been emphasizing as Lord Buddha is very special, but has been unable to follow the teachings of Lord Buddha. Regarding my family and my mother, sometimes makes me feel bad and doubt all my practice of mindfulness is in vain. Thank you.
So it's about sharing the practice with them, is it? Sharing the practice with the family members. The guilt comes.
Not sharing. What she says is, though mother believes that Lord Buddha is the best, she is not practicing those. Yeah. But she has no contact with the mother. So she is feeling very guilty about her practice. I don't know whether she is thinking whether that she needs to.
Yeah, probably you have this gift and you want to share that gift with them and get them to practice. That type of a thought process, I think. So that happens. We can't really force other people into the Nibbana. We would love to do that, but that's not possible. Right? So what you can do is, you simply practice, you simply develop a wholesome mind, and as a result, I'm sure your family members, friends, they even get the benefit of that wholesomeness. They have their own timelines. They have their own timing. We can't rush it. But when we practice ourselves, when we develop our practice, in a way, when they are ready, we can give the gift to them. There's this saying that says, it is more generous to accept a gift than to give it. We feel like giving a gift, that's the most generous thing. But if the other person is not accepting, if he is not ready, then there's no point in us trying to give that gift. That's the same thing with this. So we try to give this gift to them, but they are not ready. So what can we do? What can we do? Simply what we can do is we continue our practice, and when they are ready, when the timing is right, that very practice will help you to share this gift with them. We have lot of such things in our lives. We have gone through many years, many decades of difficulty in our lives, and everything is not perfect. Yes, even when I think about my past, it feels like if this didn't happen, or some relationships, if this ended in a different way, if I had a better connection with this person, all those thoughts, doubts are there. We all are perfectly imperfect, and you can't do much about it. The acceptance, that's the way. You have done the best according to your ability, and what else can you do? And most of these things, we are not solely responsible. We feel like we are responsible. We feel like we should have changed it. But in reality, if you understand the way of life, most of it's not according to our plans. It's not according to our expectations. We have tried, certain things happened, but even them, they are not perfect. And many things went wrong, and that's okay. We don't have to take the responsibility for everything in our life. Most of them, they were out of our control. This reality you have to understand. Imagine all the plans, expectations you had probably like 20 years ago. What has happened to them? Laughable, right? You have made so many plans, you were aiming for so many things, but when it comes to today, you realize you navigated these decades, but it's not the same destination that you expected. It's probably even not with the same people that you expected. So what can you do? That's the reality. That's the reality. So the problem here is that we think that we are responsible for everything. We feel like we are the creator of this world. That type of a mentality is there within us. But when we continue the practice, when we get the proper understanding, most of them, they were out of our control. We had a little control, that's true, but there were other forces at work. For example, karma, all those things. So they were at work. And that's okay. All of us, we have wounds, we have troubles, we have certain bad memories, and that's the reality of life. It is perfectly imperfect. So simply accepting what has happened allows you to feel compassionate towards yourself, and that very compassion will eventually go to the outside world. First, your cup has to be full. You have to be compassionate towards yourself. Then only you can be compassionate towards your mother. Right? So, accepting this whole thing, accepting the reality of our life, it may take many months, many years of hard work, of practice, but that's the way. That's the way. We all have such guilty feelings, such bad memories, such terrible incidents in our lives, and I'm sure all of them, they contributed for us to be here today. Without them, probably we won't be here. Without all the bad experiences, without the things going wrong, without certain people in our lives, we won't be here, that's for sure. Yes, so you have reached here because of those very experiences. They might not be positive all the time, but still they all contributed for you to be here today. So accepting that, simply being little compassionate towards yourself, it helps. And you develop your practice. One day, if it meant to be, you will get a different opportunity. If it's not meant to be, then what can you do about it? Yes, so that's the very idea. Try and see.
That's all, Bhante. Is there any verbal questions?
I have a question regarding the hand gesture, because I keep my hand comfortable, but there is a guilt part, like even in the statues of Lord Buddha, it is in a certain way, and also yoga also they say keep the hand in certain way. So when I sit, the hand is the one really brings like a trouble, and also while sitting also, am I in the right position kind of a feeling comes. And does the hand really makes a difference for our meditation practice?
Yes, take that posture as the ideal posture, but we have the misalignments in our body, and as a result we can't achieve that perfect posture. For example, you are supposed to keep your right leg on top of your left leg. That's the way, right? In the lotus. But I have been sitting all the time, keeping my left leg on the top. And initially I tried, maybe when I started, I tried to, switch, but it wasn't comfortable. It didn't work. So even me, myself, I am sitting in a wrong posture, considering the ideal posture. So that's okay. That's okay. You have that ideal posture in your mind. Gradually work towards it. If it works, it works. But if we can't reach there, what can we do? What's important is for you to make the posture comfortable and balanced in the beginning. That approach is better, and with that you can continue and see whether the posture is helping, whether there are any improvements to do in it. Right? There are those, I don't know whether you did the yoga, those lotus flexibility exercises yesterday. Did you do that rocking child, butterfly? There are three lotus flexibility exercises in yoga. One is called rocking child. You take your leg and like this. Mudita, he did? Yes. So those exercises, not once in a month, every day, 5 minutes daily would do. If you do them with a little warm up, and if you practice it for a while, then you realize after a couple of months you can really get to a considerably good posture. Right? Search on YouTube lotus flexibility exercises, and there was this very nicely done video, and there are all the three lotus flexibility exercises were explained in a very clear manner. And when you do them for a few months, then you can really adjust your posture and see that how to sit in a best manner, and what is the posture that works for you. That balance you can take. Even for me, I can't sit in full lotus. The legs are too long, so it's difficult. So I am sitting on half lotus, and the right leg is on the bottom. So that's happened. That's okay. And even the hands, if you feel like this, then it's fine. Some people, they keep it like this. Some people, they feel like this. So you decide. It's not about the ideal posture. It's about your unique way of practicing, most people, they exhaust themselves with the posture, and at the end of the day, they don't get to practice. Right? So you start the posture, you balance it, you make sure that it is somewhat comfortable, and then even gradually you go into the meditation and the posture changes. Certain adjustments are felt, so that's okay. That's okay. We are not trying to maintain a particular posture. Instead, we continue our practice. That's what's important. And with time, you can figure out your own balance.
Avasarai Bhante, based on your Dhamma sermon, now our past karmas and our present karma that we have, so where do they go if we are saying, because I always thought there is a pratisandhi viññāna, right?
The
Please
rain is...
Can't hear me. Can't hear.
Past karma.
Basically, I always thought, Bhante, there is a pratisandhi viññāna, which is where all our past karmas, now we are born with certain karmas also, no? So now if we are saying that consciousness is, not permanent, yes, I do understand that when it comes to 5 aggregates, the viññāna is not permanent, but is there a different viññāna, like pratisandhi viññāna, which is different, where all our... Because otherwise, how do you explain where all our past karmas that came? Lord Buddha had for years and years, all the Pansiya Panas Jatika. So that's so confusing, That's what I wanted to ask you, because in that case...
So it's good that it feels confusing. Buddha says that karma is a subject that you shouldn't be thinking of too much. If you start thinking about karma, you might go crazy. Buddha says certain subjects. The world is one subject. Karma is one subject. So keep thinking about it, and it makes us confusing. But you have to understand that, let's say that there's no such thing as a fixed or constant or eternal soul in this practice. Instead, the contact, let's say the sound of the rain, sound of the rain and my ear, they create a contact, and at that moment, sound consciousness is created. So that is so rapid. It's not like one, but thousands and thousands of sound consciousness is created, and that only we are experiencing as a sound. So the process is so rapid. Sound consciousness, touch consciousness, eye consciousness, all those things appearing, disappearing time after time, and due to certain causes, Buddha said this process is there. Certain causes are there. So imagine you plant a certain seed, watermelon, and since you planted that there, the soil supports it, you get the rain, sunlight, and what you get as fruit is watermelon. Because you have planted a watermelon seed over there. Same goes. We are planted here, right? Your mother's womb. So that was your soil, that was your seed. And as a result, whatever the things we get, we are experiencing pleasure and pain. Right? But let's say you go somewhere else, a different seed is planted, accordingly they will bear the fruit. Right? So it's like in this situation, this is what we are experiencing, this is what bears fruit. But at the end, let's say at your deathbed, it might be planted in some other place. Right? So it is appearing, rising and ceasing. Right? Appearing, disappearing, appearing, disappearing. The same momentary birth and death happens. That's the very teaching. That momentary birth and death is happening all the time. At the deathbed also, the same thing happens. You die, that momentary death, and you are born somewhere else. So, sorry?
Like pratisandhi.
No, forget pratisandhi. Same process. Right? So that's the stream of consciousness. So stream of consciousness, we identify it as a person, it as a being, it as a someone who moves here and there, that type of a thing. Right? But according to the teaching, you can simply end this process by the practice. That's what Buddha is saying. So if you think that there's this constant or eternal soul that travels, then that's a wrong view. That Sati Bhikkhu, he was also, read that sutta. If you search with the word Sati, this very idea is explained in that conversation. I can't remember the name of the sutta. Was it the Sati? I know the monk was Sati. Can't remember the exact name. If you go on that tipitaka.lk and search Sati, only within few pages that name will come and you can figure out. And there the whole conversation is explained properly. And he was saying that there is this eternal consciousness traveling from life to life. That's what I have heard from the Buddha. That's what I have learned from him. That was his argument. And even coming to Buddha, he was saying the same thing. But Buddha blamed him for spreading a wrong view, and he said, "You, how many times have I tell that consciousness is created due to causes? Sound and ear, and there is some additional something, and the ear consciousness is created. Not just because sound and ear is there. Instead, there is some, some direction, some alignment should be there also. Right? So that complicated process. But what you have to understand is, this is momentary birth and death that you are experiencing. There's no change. Although for the outside people, it feels like there was this huge change. This person died and was born somewhere else. Although it is apparent to outside, inside it's not much of a change. Every moment we are born, every moment we are died. That process is continuing, a stream of consciousness we are experiencing. So try to approach your practice and try to simply continue. I don't know, thinking about consciousness, whether it can help you. Read that sutta, that studying them little by little and having these type of discussions and again practicing for few hours. So that's the approach.
Thank you, Bhante.
Okay, seems like that's it.
Bhante, I have
Yes.
coming back to the observer, like you were talking about the observer, that lady was looking for the observer.
Yeah.
Is Namarupa can be taken as the observer in that sense?
No, Namarupa is not the correct observer, no.
Yeah, there's no observer, so it's like, is it?
No,
There's no
it's
observer,
like
no anyway.
Interdependent.
Yeah.
Bhante Katakurunde, he was saying, if you ask Namarupa, who is the observer, Namarupa will tell consciousness is the observer.
Yeah.
If you ask consciousness, who is the observer, consciousness will say Namarupa is the observer. So it's a never-ending.
Yeah, he explains with
yes.
that Batamiti Hoetu.
Yes. So you can see, it's like, who is that person who is asking, who is the observer? Right? When you try to catch that bugger, who is the one who is trying to catch? Yes. Again
So
and
it's
again.
never ending.
Yeah, it's a never-ending process. It's creating many layers of confusion. So you can see interdependent nature. You ask from one, you are directed to the other. You ask from the other, you are directed to this one. So it continues. It's a never-ending process. It's like a circle. When it is a circle, when it is a cycle, it's not going to end, right? So that's the very idea. So instead of trying to chase after the observer, we simply try to see the observer through the observation. That's the way. And Alan Watts, I can't remember the exact quote. He was also giving some nice idea, but he is a philosopher, so he's talking philosophy. He's saying that I am not interested in knowing or something like that. I am interested in finding out the I behind all the knowing. So some kind of a whole statement is there, a quote is there. In that also he is very nicely telling, this is the bugger to catch, but it is difficult to catch him. Yeah, so what to do? The only way is going through the observation. Through the observation, that's the simplest approach. If you can simply catch it, then game over. But you can't do it. They say simply jump into the space in between two thoughts. All your problems are resolved. But can we jump? Difficult. Yes. So usually our attention goes to the thoughts that are created. That's simply a smoke screen. But the real thing is in between those thoughts. The breath we observe, but the real thing is in between the two breath cycles, the space, the gap between the breath. So if you can jump there, everything is resolved. But you can't jump. The mind always bounces back. Right? So that happens. So through the practice only we can approach this. And we'll see. If you catch, you tell me. Don't tell them. Secretly you come and tell me, Bhante, I have done it. I have finished. Yes.
Thank you, Bhante.
So that ends our discussion, and at 1 p.m. there will be a gathering here for a sitting session, and at 2 we'll be doing the finishing ceremony. So probably around 2:30 you can go sweet home.